Choosing a new handgun. How to decide what's best for you, especially for the new shooters, those that have less experience with many different type firearms. What is a good handgun? How do you decide in such a huge market? There are so many different type handguns out there, it's not even funny. You go all the way from the regular revolver to a little single action semi-automatic to a double action single action automatic, striker fire, and even a single action revolver. But the number one thing that you need to decide to get started is for what purpose are you buying this firearm? Is it for self-defense? If it is for self-defense, is it for home defense or is it for concealed carry or both? Is it a sidearm to go hunting, which this Ruger Black Hawk would be a perfect companion for a hunter? Or is it just to go out to the range and have some fun plinking on Saturday? You have to decide, number one, what is your purpose? Now, number two is caliber. What caliber do you want? Some people have nerves of steel. They can shoot any caliber, it doesn't matter. They can shoot a 10 millimeter all the way down to a 22, 357 Magnum all the way down to a 25 automatic. But there are some that are somewhat skittish when it comes to shooting, that even a 22 can get them unnerved. And so you have to decide what kind of pistol can you handle recoil-wise and size-wise. Some guns are very light and some are extremely heavy and bulky. Your body size, your weight, your ability to handle recoil is going to be a key factor in what you need to buy to give you the confidence you need. Now here's a lineup of just some of the common calibers that you're going to see that are used for self-defense. There are some that are missing and I'll mention them, but here's the 25 ACP, very marginal for self-defense. We have the 22 long rifle, which is a rimfire. This is great for plinking, great for pest control around the house or maybe some light hunting. It can be used, though. These both have been and can be used for self-defense, but they're fairly inadequate. Now here's the 380, and this really should be the minimum for self-defense considered by most experts. You also have a 9mm, a 40 Smith & Wesson, the 45 ACP, and the 10mm. We don't have a 357 SIG or a 45 Gap. Those are some calibers that are starting to come very popular, but still, these are your more common semi-automatic calibers. Here on the right, we have a 38 Special, a 357, and this is a 45 long Colt. You can also get a 44 Magnum. And then also with the revolver, the 22 long rifle is very popular. Really, for most inexperienced shooters, I would recommend the 380 or the 9mm. But the 40, the 45 ACP, the 10mm, and the 357 SIG and 45 Gap really need to be left to people that have a little more experience with firearms. But then again, even with an inexperienced shooter, these calibers can be mastered. One of the things, though, that needs to be considered up front is your cost. You need to consider the cost and what your budget will allow you to buy. If you have a budget of $300, you're going to be very limited to what handgun choices you have, because you've got to always consider quality, durability, and accuracy of the firearm. And if you have a $500 budget, you're going to increase your selection. But let me say one thing about buying a firearm, a good quality firearm. Something like this little Colt Mustang, which is fairly expensive. This will not only last my lifetime and my children's lifetime, but for generations if properly cared for. These are heirlooms. What you hand down as a firearm will last for generations and will help protect your family for years to come. Also, buying a good quality firearm is extremely important, because what is your life worth and what is the life of your family worth? Having a good, reliable, accurate handgun of good quality is just over the top importance. Now obviously the best case scenario is for you to go and shoot every gun that's out there on the market to make your choice. But that's just not really feasible or even possible. Now, one of the initial things about learning about what firearm is good for you is there are so many different publications out on the market. There are also a bazillion YouTube reviews. In fact, I've probably done half of them. But you have a lot of choices out there, a lot of information to be able to find what's best for you. Also, word of mouth. Certain people will buy a Glock. They may buy a Smith & Wesson M&P. You get to go shoot it. And a lot of people just make a choice on very limited handgun experience. Now, one of the first things I recommend for someone to do is to go to a well-stocked gun shop. Once they've decided their budget, once they've decided what their purpose is it for concealed carry, is it for home defense, and to lay out a number of different pistols in that category and take their hand and just hold the pistol. See how it feels. That is the number one thing that'll bond you to a firearm. So taking that pistol, putting it in your hand, lifting it up, looking at it, looking over your controls. Once you do that, it's going to really help you in deciding what's best for you. Now, the second part of that exercise is to take your pistol, finger, of course, out of the trigger. And when you're in a gun shop, try not to sweep across people. And that means taking the muzzle and going around with people. Try to keep it in a safe direction at all times with your finger out of the trigger. Take the firearm, lift it up, and see where the natural point of aim. See if when you lift it up, maybe pick a spot out on the wall and just bring it up and see if your sights are aligned. That front sight is lined up with the rear sight in the right position. That is your natural point of aim. Closing your eyes with the gun held in a down position and bring it up into a shooting position and then open your eyes. That is one way to start to determine your natural point of aim. If you're in a stressful situation and you just whip a gun up, having a natural point of aim is going to give you some advantages. Now, natural point of aim can be changed. The more you start to handle firearms, the more you start to learn each individual gun. You can adapt to any of these different firearms given over time. The first centerfire pistol that I ever bought was a German Luger. Had a real thin grip, had a bulky upper receiver with this toggle that actually fit back instead of the slide. With that pistol, I really learned to shoot very well. With today's firearms and all the different choices, they make it really easy for you to adapt. Interchangeable back straps, different grips that you can get. There's a lot of different things that you can do to find the right pistol for you. You also want to check out your sights. Can you see your sights? Are you able to pick up the sights? Here with this little Colt Mustang, has very low profile sights, but it is a concealed carry pistol. This little Beretta, model 950 and 25. Tiny little minimal sights. You need to look and check those sights out. Now you can again adapt to those sights, but that'll lead you into a direction of what you're seeing, what you want, how it feels, the ergonomics of the pistol. Now one thing to consider is what kind of safety system on each of the individual pistols is right for you. Some people are extremely safety conscious, and you need to be safety conscious whenever you handle any firearms. You need to follow the basic safety rules. But there are different type safeties for each of these different pistols, and some people like extra and redundant safeties. But the most important part about safety is not the safety that's on the gun. It's the safety between your ears, keeping that gun pointed in the right direction, always double checking to make sure it's unloaded when you're handling it anywhere outside of the range. But like here on this Glock, it has a trigger safety. There's no external safeties, and because of the way this is striker fired, you can carry this gun with a round in the chamber and a loaded magazine in safe condition without any external safeties here. Yes, there's a hammer drop safety, they're internal safeties. But as far as a manual safety to say this is on safe, the Glock and many other striker fired pistols does not have that. The old 1911, it has a thumb safety here and it has a grip safety. The gun is cocked and locked, that means the safety's on, and then the gun cannot fire unless this safety is depressed. You have to learn how to adapt to your safety system. One thing about the Beretta, of course the gun is unloaded, is that if the hammer's back, you decock. And this allows for a round to be in the chamber, your magazine full, and this is in ready position, except that it's on safe. So you click the safety off before you shoot. On this CZ-SP01, it has a hammer drop, but now it's in fire position. I can pull the trigger and fire the weapon. On a revolver, the safety is in the trigger pull. Because you have a pretty hefty trigger pull, you don't really need an external safety. And this is really simplistic, it's really easy to handle. Now, size and weight are very important. Here are a number of my concealed carry options. These are different handguns that I carry at different times for concealed carry. So the weight and the size have a lot to do with what choices you're going to make. Here are some home defense type pistols or tactical or service pistols. They're fairly large, they're heavy. Even though this Glock 20, which is in 10mm, is a fairly light pistol, it's still large and it's still very difficult to carry concealed. Ammunition capacity of each of these different firearms. You have 16 rounds of 9mm in your CZ SP01, but you have 5 rounds of 38 Special, 10 rounds in the Glock Model 26. So there are a lot of different things about what you're going to be doing with the pistol and deciding what magazine capacity are you comfortable with. There are a lot of people that have a very limited experience with firearms and choose it based on something they shot with a friend or something a friend recommended. Do your research. There are so many different sources between all the gun publications and all the gun reviews on YouTube and all the different forums about all kinds of different pistols to be able to lead you to at least by the time you get to the gun shop, you have some knowledge and some idea about what you're looking for. Handgun choices. How to decide what handgun fits you. Now, the choice of revolvers. With the advent of the semi-automatic just taking over the market, there's still a lot of great revolver choices out on the market. And one of the things about a revolver is that it's very simple. There's no safety. You load it very easily. Right here, close it. You can see that the revolver is loaded. And then you can fire just by pulling the trigger. It's very simplistic. It's very easy to use. But many revolvers really need practice, especially something small like this Smith & Wesson J-frame. Many ladies just like the looks of this little revolver, and then they go and they try to pull the trigger and they're like, wow, that's a little stiff. And then once the recoil happens, they go, wow, that's a little bit more than I like to shoot. Making a choice for a revolver like this little small J-frame is something that really needs to be considered more than others. Of course, a good single action style revolver, these are still very popular. Ruger makes really excellent ones, and there's some others out there, but they're very simple, and they're very heavy and they're very bulky. And something really tiny like one of these little mini revolvers, this is really small and really difficult to master, and I call this my get off me gun. Accessory rails have become very popular, especially with more full-size pistols, to where you can slide some kind of laser or flashlight. Just like this Glock Model 20, I have a Glock flashlight that clips right in. Of course, there are a number of different companies that make lights, lasers, different accessories, even a bayonet for the Glock. So if you're really looking to put a flashlight on your pistol, you might really want to look at an accessory rail. Of course, interchangeable back straps are really big now, especially with Smith & Wesson, Springfield Armory, and the Glocks. This allows you to really make the grip fit your hand. Yes, choosing the right handgun for an individual person can be somewhat difficult. But do a little research, go to your local gun shop, handle some of the firearms, ask questions. They may be able to lead you in a good direction. And then when you make your purchase, take it out and practice, practice, practice. Be strong, be of good courage. God bless America. Long live the Republic. So what do you think about my new stash? Yeah, looks pretty sweet. Of course, my kids told me if I kept this, they weren't going anywhere with me again. Oh well, so long, kids.